Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be a new book recommendation video, and it's going to be a new edition of If You Like This, Try That, which I love those. I need to do more. I will link the playlist down below. But this time it's going to be about recommending beginner-friendly nonfiction books, which I know in Booktube there's this divide, people that are either loving nonfiction, that read a lot of them, and then people that are really intimidated by them. So I thought it would be fun to help you figure out which one to pick up based on the genres that you currently read. So I'm going to be very specific and then give you some options that I think are fairly easy to go through and that might make you want to pick up some nonfiction. So the first one is going to be for anyone that likes either like magical realism, I think anything written by Erin Morgenstern or maybe Madeline Miller. So anything where the focus is the writing and how pretty it is. So I have a good recommendation because I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Islands of Abandonment, which is the perfect recommendation for you. The topic I find really interesting. I've been trying to read nonfiction books that are different everything else I have read, and this one is a really great example. The author has been to a few different places where nature reclaimed its place. So think farmland in Scotland, basically the forest coming back, or think Chernobyl. A few different places where basically diseases, war, bombing affected the space, and now nature is reclaiming its place. And it's been really interesting. And again, the writing is really beautiful. I think it's a good balance between informing you, getting all the information, and also just how beautiful the writing can be in nonfiction book, which I don't feel like I have read that many nonfiction book where the language had such a priority. So if you are trying to get into nonfiction and you are someone that loves the focus on beautiful writing, beautiful prose, you need to check out this book. The second one I want to recommend is for anyone that really likes post-apocalyptic or think like disastrous kind of setting, because it's about climate change. And bear with me, The Uninhabitable Earth. And I read this a couple years ago and I still think about this book for a few different reasons. First off, I do think you get some good information in there, but it's still very, very accessible. But also the tone is very different from a lot of nonfiction books on the topic that I have read, because the author is really hopeful. Like, you do get pretty alarming data because, you know, it is what it is. But his tone is really hopeful and very, it's not doom and gloom, which I feel like we need a little bit more of that. So you get all the information of how climate change could affect us depending if we hit 2 degrees Celsius increase up to like 8. And like I said, some terrifying data. For example, one of the things that stuck with me is how this is a crude retelling, like those are not the words he used, but basically the increase of heat and air pollution can affect basically the IQ of people, like how dumb we're going to become. Which is definitely one of the things that really stuck with me, which makes sense because if I'm thinking how I'm feeling whenever it's really hot and humid, I don't feel like thinking. I cannot think. So it's not necessarily surprising, but hearing it was definitely something that 2-3 years later I still think about. So I still would recommend it, again, if you like things that are post-apocalyptic, but with interesting data. And once again, the tone is not doom and gloom. It's definitely more optimistic, which I think is refreshing on the topic. He definitely thinks that because we are the one in control of climate change, is something that we can actually reverse or improve. So yes. Third one I think is going to be something that is going to be quite popular if you pick it up, and it is A Taste for Poison. So the author explored 11 different molecules that are poisonous, and I like the balance of talking about how the molecule works on the human body and how it was used, kind of true crime effects. So for people that are big fans of true crimes, mystery thriller, murder mystery, I would recommend this one because it's probably definitely up your alley, because I feel like the stories are they almost read like fiction. And I was a little surprised because I feel like my whole life I've heard that like poisons are definitely something like women use. No, there's definitely a lot of men, especially trying to kill their wives, which I've made that joke before, but like divorce sounds so much easier than the steps they went through to attempt to get away with murder. So one molecule, for example, was insulin. So it's something super common, but I really enjoyed the balance of learning how it works and then seeing it apply to a specific story, a true story. So if that's something that is appealing to you, I would highly recommend this one. I thought it was super entertaining. I didn't see the time pass as I was reading it. So I think that if you enjoy true crime, you will definitely enjoy this one, or just murder mysteries, really. A little bit in the same way, if you like mystery thriller, psychological thriller, I would recommend Brain on Fire, which this one is a little little bit more well-known than the other ones in this video. But you have this woman who one day wakes up in the hospital attached to a bed and she doesn't know what happened. And you basically follow her slow descent into madness. She has no idea what's going on. The doctors have no idea what's going on. It's a fairly short read too. It's about 200 pages, so you can go through this really fast. And because once again, it's such an extreme situation to be in, it almost reads like fiction. It's very, very quick. It's a memoir, and I think that if you want to dip your toe into nonfiction, this would be a great way of doing it. This was also made into a movie, but I have yet to watch it, so I can't comment on that. Ooh, the next ones are some of my favorite ones. If you enjoy strong female lead character, maybe historical fiction, maybe kind of fantasy, but in nonfiction form, that would be anything written by Kate Moore. But we're going to start with the first one, and it is The Woman They Could Not Silence, One Woman, Her Incredible Fight for Freedom, and the Men Who Tried to Make Her Disappear. That's a long one. So you follow the story of this woman in 1860, and she starts having opinions, which clearly her husband doesn't like, opinions about religion and politics, and he starts the process to get her into an insane asylum. So you're following her story through that, how he recruited other men in the community to get there, and how the men in power into this asylum were able to keep her there and everything she went through, and her fight to get back her freedom, her children. Super, super interesting because it is so messed up. It almost reads like fiction, so I feel like it's very accessible for a fiction reader, and it's a heartbreaking story. I was, I'm not gonna lie, I was mad the whole time I was listening to the audiobook, but I highly recommend it because it was really, really interesting, and I think that it's very accessible for anyone that's a fiction reader wanting to get into nonfiction. So highly recommend this one. Also, the author came out with a different book a few years prior that I really, really loved, and it's called The Radium Girls: Dark History of America's Shining Women, which once again, real story of women that were painting in factories, think clocks and watches with radium, and how they were painting them with little, I had the French word in my head, I'm like pinceau, brushes. And the technique that they were using, they would put the brush in their mouth every time in between. So radium in the human body, not so great. So that book follows their story and how the owner eventually figured out that it was causing health issues and they tried to hide it, and the story of these women getting absolutely horrible diseases. So obviously warning for that. But again, it almost reads like fiction because it is so incredibly dark. But I think it's a really interesting topic with like starting the rights, workers' rights. So love this, do recommend that. And last but definitely not least, I need to recommend a memoir for anyone that likes family drama. I feel like that's a very common topic for like contemporary, adult contemporaries. So I would recommend Born a Crime: Stories from a South African Childhood, which is a memoir by Trevor. I would recommend the audiobook because the author is narrating it, and the author is obviously super charismatic, so it makes it even better. But I really enjoyed, I don't read a ton of memoir, but this one is probably the easiest and some of the best one that I have read because the author, again, charismatic, but he's also funny. It's a good balance between his relationship with his family, his mother specifically, how he grew up over there. And it was just overall super, super interesting, very likable, very easy to go through. So I would highly recommend this, again, if you enjoyed relationship between characters, specifically himself and his mother. They definitely had an intense relationship and their ups and downs, and it makes it for a very interesting book. So would highly recommend this one. This one is definitely the most popular in this video, but I thought it was still worth mentioning because I do think it's a very easy one to get to if you enjoy contemporaries, again, family drama. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this quick little recommendation video for beginner-friendly nonfiction books. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any favorite nonfiction books that you think are easy enough that people that want to start but are super intimidated would enjoy. I also want to know, obviously. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye. I have Steve staring at me through the window for peanuts, so I'm gonna have to do that right now.